The first day of Parliament has come and gone, and it looks like Mark Carney is already tired of his new cabinet. Well, that looks like a sign of good things to come, doesn't it? On top of that, the new Speaker of the House was elected. Greg Fergus not returning to the seat. Francis Scarpileggia will be taking over as the House of Commons Speaker. And based on the little speech he gave before everybody gave their ballots in to elect the new Speaker, it sounds like he's going to be really harsh. And considering he's a liberal, I can only assume a little bit of bias to come in the future. And right after the speaker was selected, we had some breaking news here. Apparently Mark Carney is going to be limiting his exposure in the House of Commons.
Today is the first day the House of Commons is sitting in the 45th Parliament, and Mark Carney is already lowering the bar on accountability. Breaking news, folks. Mark Carney has announced that he will not be continuing the tradition of Prime Minister's question period. Under Justin Trudeau, every Wednesday, Justin Trudeau stood up in response to questions, every question from the opposition. He didn't always answer the question, but he thought it was important to stand up at least in response to every opposition question on Wednesdays. But Mark Carney is already, before a single question has been asked, he's lowering the bar on accountability by refusing to carry on this tradition. So Mark Carney will be answering far fewer questions even than Justin Trudeau did. He's lowering the bar on accountability on the first day in Parliament. Not a good start.
As much as I don't like Trudeau, at least he would show up for question period. It sounds like Mark Carney is just not going to even bother with it. In the first few weeks, no pipelines, no plan, housing will not come down, the cost will not come down. Mark Carney is limiting his exposure in the House of Commons, answering questions, taking accountability, etc. This is already panning out to be worse than the Trudeau government. And it might as well be the Trudeau government because a large majority of them are still there. The Liberals keep talking about passing this tax cut. Now, I'm not entirely sure what this tax cut would involve because they barely talk about it. They just say they're going to do it. Whenever they are questioned about the tax cut or tax break, they say a few things and then divert to something else. We have Conservative MP here, Melissa Lantsman, going over this specific tax cut that the Liberals want to introduce.
I appreciate you making the time. I wanted to start off on something that Minister McKinnon was talking about, this middle-class tax cut. He says will be introduced through Parliament this week. Is your party going to support that?
Well, look, we haven't seen anything on the table, but we've come out with a very clear set of priorities of what we want to see to make life more affordable for Canadians. Of course, Mr. Carney has taken some of those ideas. He certainly ran with some of those ideas in the campaign. So we encourage him to take those Conservative ideas. But when that comes to the floor of Parliament Hill, we'll look at it and scrutinize it as an opposition would, and we'll make that decision when it happens.
In principle, if it is straight up and down the middle class tax cut that they say it's going to be, in principle, does your party support that?
Well,
I think Canadians are interested.
Yeah, look, we've seen this. We've seen this before, where they've said something is coming to the House and it doesn't look like that at all. So we'll wait to see it. But anything that is going to make life more affordable for Canadians, that is going to reduce the tax burden, inflation, the cost of living, the cost of government, that's our number one priority here for Canadians, for the 8 million people that voted for Conservatives and for those who didn't.
I wanted to pick up on something you talked about and sort of that I heard a lot from the leader in the House, Andrew Scheer, today, kind of roasting the government for taking ideas that the Conservative Party had put forward. Shouldn't your party be happy that those are being pursued rather than kind of dismissive of the government for picking up what you would characterize as good ideas?
We're certainly not dismissive of the government, but you have Mark Carney, who always, who on the campaign trail said that a plan is better than no plan, and we have yet to see a plan. So we're going to push for them to put a budget as a plan. First of all, throne speech is not a plan. It is a set of priorities. So we want to see an actual plan on the table. And if those include Conservative ideas, then we encourage them to take more of those.
So why are you making fun of them for doing so?
Well, look, I think that they've taken those ideas, or at least they said they've taken those ideas, but we haven't seen legislation yet that takes the burden of the carbon tax off the table. We haven't seen the elimination of that carbon tax. We haven't seen anything on crime, on the chaos, on the drugs, on the disorder in our streets. We certainly haven't seen a middle-class tax cut yet. I understand that the House is coming. So when we see those solutions, and if they happen to be conservative solutions, then we'll encourage him to take those ideas and run with them.
What does it say about your party that Canadians ultimately, a majority of Canadians decided they'd rather see the Liberals implement those ideas than your party?
Yeah, look, I think we've got a mission ahead of us, and it is 5 clear priorities of reducing the cost of living, of making sure that we build affordable homes in this country, reduce the cost of building and the regulation around it, that we do something on immigration, a system that has been broken by the Liberals, that we address crime, and most importantly, that we grow the economy, that we attract investment in this country. That's what we're going to go back to the House with. That's what we're going to start the session with. That's what we're going to advocate for Canadians. And more than that, we'll show them that there is a government in waiting. We'll restore hope for those who felt like this in December and certainly still felt like this on Election Day, those 8 million people that voted for Conservatives. We have a responsibility to them and to instill hope and change. And if it is pushing the Liberals to do that, that's exactly what we're going to do.
The Conservatives should also be pushing to cancel the summer recess. If things are so bad like they keep mentioning over and over again, then why is everybody so relaxed? You know what I mean? A lot of theatrics, the throne speech, Carney going on vacation to meet the Pope in Rome, the G7 summit meeting. 3 entire weeks of Parliament actually running?
Be here to do.
But with all due respect, my question was about why Canadians ultimately in this election did not think that you were more than a government in waiting.
Well,
and even what you outlined, the things that you just talked about are very much what we hear from Prime Minister Carney and from the Liberals. And ultimately, there was a difference, right? Yes, a record number of Canadians voted free, but a record number of Canadians voted for the Liberals as well. Like, what kind of introspection has your party done on why that is the case?
Yeah, look, I think anytime you win or lose an election, there are things to look at about what you can do better. But going into the House and going into the session and going into the year, we're going to advocate for those things on Canadians. And if Mark Carney wants to talk about these things, that's one thing. But we want to see implementation. And I think the judgment of that from Canadians will be if he's able to implement, if he's able to deliver results. And right now we actually see the opposite of that. We've got ministers sort of freelancing about housing prices not having to go down, about not building pipelines, about working from home, and we see the government's first order of business is not to present a budget in a timely way for Canadians. So I think Canadians will be the judge of this government, and will continue to be the vigorous opposition and scrutinize the legislation that comes to the House.
And look, I do take your points on all that you just pointed about the government. I've asked the ministers the very same questions around accountability on all of that. But you kind of brushed aside my question about your own party's role in the outcome. And I'll put to you, look at all the shadow ministers. Everybody's in basically the same position. Nobody will really talk about, what kind of introspection you're doing or that you even really fell short. Like, what is the consequence of the election outcome for your party? And it's not just that you lost. It's that you lost when 6 months ago you were going to win.
Look, I think that, again, every time a party wins or loses, there's introspection that needs to happen, and the details of what that looks like will certainly make that clear to you when we decide sort of how to go about it. But I think there's been lots of introspection from members of this party, from the new MPs that are here, maybe why they won, which kinds of coalitions. We've got to build out to attract more Canadians to the coalition while keeping the ones that we have. And there is, I think, plenty of time to look at what went right and what went wrong. But for now, we're focused on providing hope for all of those Canadians who did vote for change and who do expect us to scrutinize and oppose this government where appropriate and work for all Canadians where it is appropriate.
Is there culpability? Like, does somebody or some role need to pay a consequence for what happened? And I ask specifically about Mr. Poilievre, for example, who lost his own seat, who your party's caucus voted to adopt the Reform Act, leaving open the possibility of a leadership review, or Jenny Byrne, the campaign manager. Do either of them need to suffer the consequences of the significant
Look,
loss?
I think it's very clear. Certainly, Pierre has my full support, and he has the full support of caucus going forward. I think he delivered a new, vibrant coalition, one that is going to take us into the future, one that is going to take us into the future with young people, with those in the trades. In my own region, we've 8 out of 10 new MPs from York region. That's a lot to build on, and I think that Mr. Poilievre is the guy to do that. So we're behind him 100%. And in terms of how to go forward in election, it's about additive, not subtracting for us.
And based on that speech he did in front of caucus the other day, I would say it looks pretty united in terms of supporting him. This just feels like an absolute mess right now going into this session of Parliament. They're pretty much wasting this entire week to do a lot of nothing. And as the theatrics continue, I can only assume the nightmare that is the Liberal government will continue to show its truly flawed self beyond what we have already seen. And the fact that Mark Carney is going to hide and limit the amount of exposure he gets should be very telling about the kind of person he is. It's like he just wants to hide in the shadows. Anyway, I want to know what you think down in the comment section below. Hit that like button, hit that sub button if you're new, and thank you very much for watching.